What if I told you that 23 animals could resurrect an entire dead ecosystem, not through genetic engineering or human intervention, but through pure evolutionary power that had been dormant for a century? This is the story of how Mexican scientists performed what might be the greatest ecological resurrection in modern history. And it all started with bringing back nature's ultimate ecosystem engineer. I'm Patrick from Speculative Science, and today we're exploring something completely different from our usual predator showdowns like King Cobra versus Black Mamba or Tiger Snake versus Cottonmouth. Instead of animals fighting each other, we're witnessing how a single species can fight against ecological collapse itself. Picture North America 200 years ago when 30 to 60 million bison thundered across grasslands in herds so massive they could take days to pass a single point. These weren't just animals, they were living landscape architects that had been shaping entire ecosystems for thousands of years through their constant movement, grazing patterns, and wallowing behaviors. But then came one of the most catastrophic wildlife collapses in recorded history, as commercial hunting, railroad expansion, and systematic extermination campaigns reduced this mighty population to fewer than 1,000 animals by 1889. In Mexico, bison vanished completely by the 1920s. And when they disappeared, something incredible happened. The land itself began to die. Without these massive ecosystem engineers, grasslands transformed into degraded scrubland as the intricate web of relationships that had sustained prairie ecosystems for millennia was shattered in just a few decades. Fast forward to November 2009 in Mexico's Janos Prairie, where scientists were about to attempt something that seemed impossible: ecological resurrection through species reintroduction by releasing 23 genetically pure bison into a landscape that had been essentially dead for nearly a century. The skeptics said it was hopeless, asking how just 23 animals could revive thousands of acres of degraded land. But what happened next demonstrates the incredible power of Keystone species in ways that will completely change how you think about ecosystem engineering. Within years, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous, as sparse vegetation gave way to flourishing, diverse grasslands. Prairie dogs returned to areas where they'd been absent for decades, and bird species that had never been recorded in the region suddenly appeared. This wasn't human engineering, this was biological resurrection powered by evolution's most sophisticated ecosystem architects. To understand this miracle, you need to understand what makes bison nature's ultimate ecosystem engineers, because these animals don't just live in grasslands, they literally create them through 5 incredible mechanisms that work together like a biological terraforming system. Their massive hooves break through hard-packed soil crusts, allowing water infiltration and seed germination in ways no machine could replicate, while their dung creates concentrated fertilizer patches that supercharge plant growth, and their movement spreads nutrients across vast distances, like a living distribution network. When bison roll in dirt to remove insects, they create depressions called wallows that collect rainwater and become micro-oases where new plants can establish without competition, and seeds stick to their fur and pass through their digestive systems, creating a biological seed distribution network covering hundreds of miles. Perhaps most importantly, their selective grazing creates patches of different vegetation heights from closely cropped areas to tall grass prairies, supporting incredible biodiversity through what scientists call habitat mosaics. By 2018, those original 23 bison had multiplied to over 200, but the real story was the ecological cascade their presence triggered, something scientists call a trophic cascade, where one species creates ripple effects throughout an entire ecosystem. Prairie dogs returned first, their tunnel systems aerating soil and creating underground cities that support dozens of other species, followed by black-footed ferrets, one of North America's most endangered mammals, who depend almost entirely on prairie dogs for food and shelter. Burrowing owls appeared next, nesting in abandoned prairie dog burrows, while bird diversity exploded as recovering grasslands provided new nesting sites and food sources. The entire food web was rebuilding itself from the ground up, demonstrating exactly the kind of species interaction we explore in our predator matchup videos, except instead of competition, we're seeing cooperation on an ecosystem scale. The Janos bison aren't unique because around the world, certain species wield disproportionate ecosystem power as nature's ultimate engineers. Asian elephants serve as forest architects in seeds across vast distances, while their feeding behavior creates habitat mosaics that support incredible biodiversity. Yellowstone wolves, perhaps the most famous restoration success, returned in 1995 and immediately changed elk behavior, allowing vegetation recovery along waterways which stabilized stream banks, created beaver habitat, habitat and cascaded through the entire ecosystem. Tigers keep herbivore populations mobile through fear, preventing overgrazing and maintaining the patchy, diverse habitats that many species depend on, proving that these are nature's ultimate ecosystem engineers. Species that don't just survive in their environments, they actively create and maintain them. Today, the Janos Prairie continues its remarkable recovery as the bison herd grows steadily, while grasslands spread across areas that were barren just a decade ago, with prairie dog colonies expanding and bringing complex underground ecosystems that support countless other species. This success required more than just releasing animals. It needed legal protection, partnerships between conservation organizations, cooperation from local communities, and ongoing monitoring, proving that, while bison provided the biological engine of recovery, human support made it possible. It's proof that sometimes bringing back a single species can heal an entire landscape, and in their hoofprints, wallows, and grazing patterns, we see the blueprint for ecological resurrection. This story represents something new for speculative science because, while we've spent months analyzing how species like the inland taipan versus black mamba or banded sea crate versus yellow-bellied sea snake compete in evolutionary arms races, now we're exploring how species cooperate to build and rebuild entire ecosystems. If you've been following our predator showdowns, you know that evolution creates incredible adaptations for survival. But as the Janos bison prove, evolution also creates species that can resurrect life itself from ecological death. This is just the beginning of our conservation science series, where we'll explore more ecological resurrection stories, keystone species recoveries, and the incredible science behind ecosystem restoration. What restoration stories fascinate you? Yellowstone wolves, California condor recovery, or beaver reintroductions? Drop your suggestions and subscribe to Speculative Science, where we explore evolution's most incredible experiments, from deadly predator duels to miraculous ecosystem resurrections, because understanding these ecological relationships helps us become better guardians of our planet's incredible biodiversity.